LifePath 11. LifePath and Heart SoulUrge 11. Masters are nothing easy. Masters. 11 is a master. Just as 22 is a master, and 33 is a master. When we talk about masters, masters stand as examples and demonstrations of how to harness and execute a particular energy. The 11 is a master of the 2. The 22 is a master of the 4. The 33 is a master of the 6. You can look to the 11 to understand how to harness and execute the destiny of a 2. You can look to the 22 to understand how to harness and execute the destiny of a 4. You can look to the 33 to understand how to harness and execute the destiny of a 6. We're going to talk about the 11. For those who have the Heart SoulUrge number 11, you already know how to harness and execute the 2 like no other can. If your life path is 11, you have to get initiated into the experiences that arrives you at how to harness and execute masterfully the vibration of 2. 2 deals with moon energy. This is a lunar force. You become the archetype of the moon. Wherever you go, the moon is present. The moon is illuminated. Your life journey, it exemplifies the moon and manifests the moon in everything that it means, esoterically and exoterically. So, in any circumstance or situation that you're in, you have the ability to bring a new moon into a person's life, a full moon into a person's life, a half moon, a quarter moon into a person's life. You have the power to wax or wane a person's emotional perception and understanding of themselves or the circumstances, situation. Anything that the moon can do, you can do. The 11. I invoke the name of our mother, Yemeya, who many call Yemoja, the big-breasted mother, the mother of oceans, of salt waters. Salt is very essential in this expression because the moon does rule the value of salt or sodium and all of the forms of salt, even cell salts. Yemeya is the mother of Orishas, just as Obatala is the father of Orishas. And being the mother of Orishas, she ruling over salts, all cell salts come back to a particular Orisha, in which there are 12 fundamental cell salts, 7 main cell salts, okay, that relate to particular orishas. Salt or sodium works very closely with copper, and anything that works with copper works with Venus. Venus and copper, or through Oshun's force, Venus working with copper, this has a direct relationship with all of the enes of the emotionalities, such as serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin. Okay? All of the enes that have direct effect to the emotional outlook, perception, feel, as well as estrogen, okay? The feminine disposition of hormones. So when we talk about the moon, we're talking about the feminine forces, the mother of feminine forces. As sodium raises in your body, copper gets accelerated right along with it. And as copper gets accelerated right along with it, so do all of your emotions. Now your emotions are all wacky. To stabilize it, you may need a counterbalance such as potassium to harmonize against or with sodium, a means of neutralizing the effect to the hormones. This is part of physics and biology, chemistry, or biochemistry. However, what is exoteric also reigns true in esoteric. Understand that. So esoterically, the number 11, being the archetype of the moon, has the same effect on Venus themes, copper themes, emotional themes. So this energy will have to do with a lot of burdens through the divine feminine. Venus, moon. Emotionalities of all kinds. Because we're talking about the moon, the home algorithm of the master number 11 is rooted in its core at Cancer. However, it rises to Aquarius. This is where it gets quite sophisticated. The rise from Cancer to Aquarius can take many different routes. And in particular, the impulses that get involved in the rise from Cancer to Aquarius is in a relationship of the moon to Venus, which Venus has direct relationship with Aquarius, simply because Aquarius is the home of Shango, which Shango is the archetype of Uranus. Shango is the second husband of Oshun, or Venus. Therefore, she is at home in her husband's home. She has direct access to consequence and result in that house, which is the 11th house, the world stage, the groups, the social setting, society, humanity, the people. Three or more people. Understand that. So when we get Aquarius energies involved, we are dealing with Shango, who is one of the co-rulers of the house of Aquarius, Shango or Uranus. The second co-ruler or owner of Aquarius, which ruled Aquarius first, was Saturn or Obaluaye, the father of plagues, the father time, Lord of the Rings, Lord of karma. So the relationship goes between the moon and Venus, as well as Uranus and Saturn. These are the main planets that are involved with the number 11. So aspects in the chart that deal with Venus, Uranus, and Saturn has great effect in how the 11 shows up. But the foundation of that 11 is the 2. So the foundation is the moon in Cancer. The delivery is Aquarius. Understand that. World stage, 11th house. Now, started out early in life for the LifePath 11, you first have to get orientated with the moon in Cancer as it relates to you. You have to start with Yemeya, the moon. You have to start with Cancer, her algorithm, her spirit, her home. This is where you have to get familiar with first, knowing your emotional diversity, knowing your emotional faculties, and also knowing how they relate to your Venus aspects. So your moon and Venus placements, as well as your moon ruled and Venus ruled algorithms of yourself, of your spirit, you have to become very familiar with how they operate, how it affects you, what it does to you, what makes it go in a positive direction and what causes it to become undone. These have to be reoccurring themes early on in life. That is the 2, the core of it. However, the 11 of this path is when you start to actually take leadership and deliver the results, the fruits of these lessons, the rewards of these lessons, the benefit of these lessons. You assume responsibility and courageous leadership and assertiveness in delivering it out so that it can affect others in positive and constructive ways. This is when you, the illuminated moon, show up to the 11th house in a way that gives others illumination in the dark. You also will have a way through that number 1 of becoming the new moon in a person's life, where they have a reset, emotional reset, because you are present, because of your example, because of your influence, because of your wisdom, because of your words, because of your advice, your direction, your instruction. But it all starts at you mastering your emotional diversity inside of yourself as it relates to your astral body and your lunar force, the moon. Your mother will have a whole lot to do with how you show up with this, because the moon in the natal birth chart, it explains a lot about your relationship with your mother, or the nurturing guardian in your life. So it will have a lot to do with that. Venus, the astral body, you will have to learn a lot about separating those 2 impulses, identifying those 2 impulses, naming those 2 impulses, knowing yourself and the difference between those 2 impulses, having discernment. What is my intuitive impulse and what is my longing astral body demand that's taken place? Do I know the difference? Your intuitive impulse will never mislead you. It will never harm you or wrong you. It will never bind you or tie you up. That moon is the manifestation of God's voice within you through the divine feminine, just as the sun is a manifestation of God's voice through the masculine. Saturn is the maturity with those forces. Understand that. It's the maturity with those forces. That is when we gain authority through experience with these forces. As you begin to accept your Saturn transits, your Saturn experiences, especially after 29 and a half years when you have your first Saturn return. This is when you know how to rise from the number 2 to the number 11 in that life path. So starting out early in life, to recap, the number 11 life path, that is the life path, your life path has to begin with emphasis on that number 2. And then it ascends to emphasis on the number 11. The number 2 is to give you mastery in understanding your emotions and understanding others' emotions. You understand others' emotions through your own emotional realities, through the work, through going through the process of work with your own emotional realities. So your environment around you at early stages of life is going to include a lot of emotional intensity, especially with the mother or from the mother, in most circumstances. Now, there are always exceptions. There are always unique cases, all right? However, the moon will manifest most of these experiences through or from the mother, okay? Also, the household, the environment of the home. It will include a lot of experience of Libra and Taurus themes incorporated into these emotional dynamics and whirlwinds. Those Venus themes will include relationships that are desirable and relationships that are undesirable. A lot of letdowns, disappointments, expectations, things of that nature. You will have to go through every possible dark and light phase of experience with that moon and with the Venus, because you will have to understand how to tie every knot and how to untie every knot when it comes to the moon and Venus. You will have to know how to maneuver every emotional case and situation, how to self-therapy, how to heal yourself, how to show up for yourself, how to process emotional burden and loads. You will have to know how to motivate others, how to encourage, and how to protect in emotional spaces. Your intuition is your strongest gift. It's your greatest tool, your intuition. So you'll be scheduled to pass through experiences that gives emphasis to the importance of your intuition. For example, you will pass through missed opportunities where you heard your intuition, but you didn't listen. Where you could have avoided a lot of troubles, a lot of difficulties if you would have considered your intuition. You also will start to realize that your intuition is always correct. It's always right. It's always right on time. It's never inaccurate. You also will start to realize that your astral body tends to get you in trouble. It leads you astray. It sets you up for disappointment. It can deceive you. It can trick you. Your astral body makes unrealistic demands of you. unrealistic expectations as well. And it's your moon that has to come through and save you. Your moon has to come through and heal you. Your moon has to come through and rescue you every time from that Venus. So basically what you are harnessing is the relationship within yourself of Yemeya to Oshun. Within yourself, you are mothering Oshun. And within yourself, you are teaching and mentoring and guiding Oshun. Within yourself. Within yourself, you are Yemeya, having a close, nurturing relationship with her daughter, Oshun, which is the moon and Venus. So, essentially, you are the archetype of several Orishas in one. And you start out first with the mother-daughter relationship internally. Your astral body is the daughter, your intuition is the mother. And you have to learn to appropriate that relationship. That the mother has the authority, but the mother also has to consider the desires and the needs of the daughter. The mother also has to consider, with her authority, to respect the autonomy and free will of her daughter Oshun as well. Okay? That's not going to be easy, because you have to learn how to advocate for your astral body without compromising your integrity, your reputation, without making your life more complicated. You have to balance out honoring your intuition and your astral body, because your intuition and your astral body, they're going to have difficulty learning how to negotiate. That astral body is like a teenage daughter. She looks good. She's young, she wants to experience everything, she's curious, she's brave, she's bold, because she hasn't been through anything. So she's still brave. She's young enough to want to face everything and anything, and she believes she can pull through it. But she really can. But she's the youngster who's totally underestimating the dynamics of life. But within you is also another force, the moon. Yemeya, the mother of Oshun. And that mother knows. The mother knows what's down those pathways. The mother knows the differences. But there's some things that the mother has to let the daughter experience on her own, because the daughter thinks she knows better. She thinks she's wiser. She thinks she has it all figured out because she's witty, she's smart, she's intelligent. But she doesn't know what wisdom is. She doesn't know that there's a difference between intelligence and wisdom, having intelligence and wisdom. Great intellect and wisdom, there's a difference. Okay? So within your personal authority inside of yourself, in the deepest chambers of your heart and your spirit, you have to identify that this is a case that's going on inside of you. Okay? We're not talking about the 11 yet, we're still talking about that 2. This also goes for those who are LifePath 2s or SoulUrge 2. Okay, the same thing that I'm talking about right now is a 2 energy, but the 11 starts with the 2. And because you have to be master of the 2, this means that, you see, the master has already perfected the art and the skill of the lunar motherhood. This lunar and Venetian mother and daughterhood, this bond. She has mastered this relationship to where the daughter is happy with the mother and the mother is proud of the daughter. This has to take place inside of yourself, where your astral body honors your lunar body, and where your lunar body honors your astral body. They both honor each other, and they both stay in their lane, stay in their place. They don't violate each other. They don't disrespect each other. They don't take away from each other. They understand the importance of their roles, the limitations of their roles as well. There's certain ways that your astral body can move, and there's certain way that your lunar body moves too. And you have to know the difference between the two. You have to know which voice is speaking. Oh, my astral body wants that, but my lunar body is saying not right now. So who you gonna listen to? You're gonna listen to the daughter or the mother? You understand? So this is the case inside of you. Because you have to go to mastery, you have to heal the relationship between Yemeya and Oshun. For that number 11, the Yemeya and the Oshun is in conflict. They're in turmoil. They're fighting every day. They're arguing every day. They're going back and forth. So you, in a sense, in the spirit realm, in the spiritual sense, in the astral realm, you have to play the mediator between the two. You have to play the one who helps the reconciliation to take place between Yemeya and Oshun, between mother and daughter. So I want you to think about it on this wise, where the moon is the mother and Venus is the daughter. How do you reconcile that relationship? We know how teenage daughters are. You know, just like we saw recently, the footage, you know, with P. Diddy and the young girl, I think her name is Casey, Casey. Nobody can disagree that, you know, P. Diddy showed the whole world how much of a scumbag he is for, you know, the obvious abuse that he's, that he committed. You know, there's no excuse. It's definitely no excuse. It's unacceptable, his behavior. There's no way to justify that. To also, what also can be learned or remembered is that the freedom, the autonomy of teenagers, the will of teenagers, it arrives them at very hard lessons when they don't want to listen. I'm not saying this is the case with Casey, you understand? But what I'm saying is, anybody who raised teenagers understands that teenagers get to a point in their life where if they're a young man, if they're strong, they believe they can beat the whole world. And if they're beautiful, they believe they can attract the whole world. And they don't want to miss their opportunity to prove their point. And you as the parent, you have the wisdom, you have the insight, you have the know-how. But for some reason, they think they know better than you. And the truth is, all of us have been that person before. Okay? I'm 41 years old. And most of you out there around my same age. And you did the same thing when you was a teenager. I did the same thing when I was a teenager. I thought I knew everything. Come to find out, I didn't know nothing. And I still don't know nothing. Okay? And when you're young and attractive like Casey, and you have access to somebody like P. Diddy, it don't matter how bad of a person he is. If he can get you validation and attention, money, certain experiences, especially a bad boy, somebody who is a knucklehead, you know, a Pookie, a Ray Ray, they ain't trying to hear nothing you saying. That teenager is going to want to go through that experience. They're going to want to walk down that pathway, and they will fight you if you try to stop them. They will turn on you if you try to stop them. So yes, P. Diddy's a scumbag, but Casey she was also a teenager when this happened. So a portion of that reminds us of the folly of youth at the same time. How many of us know teenagers or was a teenager who insisted on getting with a guy or a girl that you know wasn't good for you, doing things that you knew would put yourself in harm's way? And as your parents warned you and tried to stop you from doing it, you went and did it anyway because you thought you knew better. You thought that it wouldn't happen to you. You thought you could get away with it. You're invincible. You're different. So this is the same situation. And the person with the LifePath 11, you have to go through things like this where your astral body thinks it knows every fucking thing. And it's going to keep ignoring your moon. It's going to argue with your moon. It's going to defy your moon. There's going to be conflict. So you have to reconcile the relationship between the teenage daughter, which is Venus, and the mother, which is the moon. Okay? So anyway, I think I made that clear. Now, as it goes, womanhood is not accessed. And I'm just saying this for women, not for, first of all, divine feminine applies for men and women, okay? If you manifest divine feminine as a man, it does not make you feminine. Please don't understand that, okay? I mean, misunderstand that, all right? However, I think it helps if I make mention that womanhood is through the moon, just as manhood is through Saturn, okay? We're not being men until we exemplify Saturn, until we bring Saturn into this situation. You're not being a woman until you bring the moon into a situation. It's just as simple as that. It's just as simple as that. So when you show up as a man, the outcome, the consequence should be as if Saturn is present. When you show up as a woman, it should be an outcome or a consequence as if the moon is present. When Saturn is present, rectitude is there. Discipline, order, structure. Security, stability, balance. Strength, authority. Realization of consent, protection of consent. All right? Rectitude. When the moon is present, insight. Insight. Wisdom, insightful wisdom to process emotional burden, emotional load. Acknowledgement of emotional material that's not so obvious. Intuiting what's in the atmosphere and inquiring on what it means and what effect it is having. Getting down to the bottom of, culminating emotional loads so that there can be lightness. Being instrumental to new beginnings in emotional processes in experience in families and lives. Being instrumental to new beginnings, the new moon. Being instrumental to the closure of emotional loads and burdens. This is through counseling. This is through listening. This is through getting down to the bottom of. This is through acknowledgement of what's hurting, of what's bothering. You understand? And intuition warns us on matters of security. Whenever we're talking about the moon or we're talking about Cancer, we are talking about security above and beyond all things. Security. The second thing is nurturing. Nurturing. Yemeya is represented as the big-breasted one. Big titties. So when you think about big titties, what do you think? Well, let me not ask you that. But when you think about big titties, you think about, you're supposed to think about nurturing and security. A baby finds comfort there. A husband finds comfort there. A baby finds security there, right? Nurturing. Breastfeeding, nurturing. You understand? So these are the attributes. The woman is to manifest the breast. Nurturer. Comforter. Healer. Source of emotional security and integrity. Right? So these are the things that number 2 is supposed to manifest outward. So what does this say when you master that number 2, the moon energy? You become a master of breastfeeding. You become a master of comforting a crying baby. You become a master at knowing what the crying baby needs, right? So how do you get that right? How do you become a master? Well, if you have many kids or you've nursed many children, raised many children, you will become a master, right? So in a sense, you will have to raise many inner childs in other people. You will have to suckle many inner childs in other people. You will have to comfort the inner child in many people. You will have to show up you have to become the breast for many people. And that's how you get the mastery. So that mother who has a lot of experience, she knows just how to quiet that crying baby. She knows just how to identify what that baby needs, because the moon deals with intuition, not words. The baby don't know how to talk, but the power that the mother has is intuition. I know what you need. I sense it. I feel it. I can tell. Whenever you do this or whenever you do that, it lets me know that you need this or you need that. That's intuition. That's the power of intuition. So mastery has to be there at intuition. You have to master the power of intuition. Master the power of nurturing. Master the power of comforting. And the way that you master it is you have to pass through so many numerous, countless experiences to where you have to show up for the inner child of other people. And sooner or later, it ends up becoming a case where you immediately identify the inner child in every person. Anytime a person sits in front of you, you don't see the person, you see the inner child in that person. And you hear that inner child speaking. You can hear that inner child crying. To other people, somebody may look like they're in a violent uproar. They're screaming, their jugular vein is showing and face turning red, spitting all over the place in a violent uproar. But you see a crying baby and you know exactly what that baby needs. You see two people arguing and fighting, well, across the street myself, I would see two grown people fighting. But to the number 11, they see two kids fighting. And I'm not saying this in a way of insult, but in a way of insightfulness, in a way of intuitive power, where you're able to see the inner child in all people. You see every person as a baby. You see every person as someone who is crying for something, and you understand what they're crying for. They can't articulate it, they can't explain it, but you can. You understand exactly what it is. So everyone else in the world is seeing two people at each other's throat, but you see two people who are suffering and they're not getting what they need. That baby will continue to cry until it gets that nipple. That baby will keep on screaming until it gets that nipple. Everybody knows when you bring that baby home, a brand new, a new baby, it takes like 3 weeks for the baby to, get his sleeping pattern right. I mean, it got lungs of iron that will keep you awake, and intuition is your best friend, because the baby can't talk. You just have to know what you know. You just have to know what it's asking for, what it needs. And this is going to be the case with you and all people. So you become the archetype Yemeya, and Yemeya is the mother of all Rishas, and her being the mother of all Rishas, she is a mother of humanity. Understand that. So you become the mother of humanity. Even as a man, you still manifest the mother of humanity as a man. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, you manifest a mother of humanity. And manifesting the mother of humanity, you know how to intuit the needs of others. You know exactly what they're crying for. Other people see anger and rage, and you see tears. And you know exactly how to show up for that. Now, when it comes to the astral body, now you take on the form, you take on a different role, a different responsibility. And the role and responsibility that you're taking on is the mother to the teenage daughter. So the mother to the teenage daughter, you understand what it's like to be young. You understand what it's like to be beautiful and attractive. You understand what it's like to have your desires in front of you. You know what it's like to want to have attention and be seen and experience life and feel alive. You also know how dangerous it can be if you don't go about it the right way. You also know that there's patterns to conditions that people have. You also know that there's patterns of behavior to certain conditions that people are walking with. And you're listening for that. You're watching for that. You're like a mother over all people. You're a mother to all people. It's motherly love. So there would be people in your life who are rebellious, acting out, going crazy, being a damn donkey, stealing cars, robbing people and shit. But you see you see them as that teenager that really don't know any better because they're emotional wreck. But you know how to bring them back to ground. You know how to bring them back to balance. You know how to bring them to a sense of security inside themselves so that they stop acting out. So you're the one who shows up for people who act out through a Cancer crisis, who act out through a Venus crisis. Every time you are called or attracted to a certain person for a soul contract in their life, it's because they're in a Cancer detriment or a Venus detriment within their self. The Cancer detriment is they can't seem to find security in themselves, emotional security. They're in crisis with their inner child. And that Venus detriment is they have a level of immaturity and delusion about themselves that causes them to become undone and self-sabotage. But life starts out with you being that person first. You have to be that person first so that you can be able to identify it. And unfortunately, you have to go through life experiencing that more than an average person. And that's what makes you masterful at identifying it. Oh, I know what you're going through. I've done it a million times. I did that to myself a million times. I tied myself up like that a million times. I hurt myself like that a million times. I abused myself that way a million times. I was looking for security and I was acting up. I was acting out. I was really crying and screaming for security. I was crying and screaming for support. I was crying and screaming for help, but I couldn't tell. So you have to go through that more than an average bear. You start out in the turmoil between the moon and Venus, between the mother and daughter inside of yourself, between Yemaya and Oshun inside yourself, between your moon and Venus, between your Cancer, Libra, and Taurus placement. That's where it starts out. Now, the second part of your life, which usually comes after 29 and a half years of your Saturn return, that is when you start getting introduced to the codes and experiences of mastery as it relates to how to deliver this out into the world from a leadership standpoint. So now it's time to deliver it to the 11th house. And because the master number is actually 11 in and of itself, it deals with 3 or more people. So therefore, you're meant to deliver this to 3 or more people at a time. So yes, you have the one-on-ones, but for the most part, you are designed and wired to show up in this way, in this capacity for groups of people, 3 or more at a time. So you can have seminars, you can have counseling sessions for whole, what do you call it? Like the getaways, like retreats. That's the word. Like retreats. Like say a battered women's retreat. Okay, let's say a youth center. Okay, let's say kids who were abused or molested or juvenile detention center, different things like that. So you are meant to show up for groups, 3 or more, with all that you have learned. And the 11 is when you're expected to learn now. After that 29 and a half years, now you're expected to learn how to take leadership with what you have experienced, to take authority with what you experienced, to get into the head space and not the heart space with what you experience, to get into the air and not the water with what you experience, to intellectualize what you have experienced, to articulate what you understand. That's the 1 in the 1. The number 1 represents the magician card. The magician card is one who knows that they have the power of creativity at all times to do anything, to accomplish anything, to find a solution for any problem at any time. Self-reliance, self-determination. I will find a solution. To be inventive, 11. Because to be inventive, this is innovation. Aquarius energy, innovation. So innovation is to work with what you have. So you show up and you meet them where they are to work with what they have. That's how you help a person. You meet them where they are. If they're down there, you go down there to meet them. If they're over there, you go over there to meet them. If they're this type of person or that type of person, you go to their personality to meet them. You meet them where they are. That's innovation, meeting them where they are, 11th house. So when you get into the 11 codes, now it's time to understand how to take all of this wisdom and get it out to the groups that you are soul contracted to. Who are the groups that you are soul contracted to? You can understand this on a personal sense by looking at your natal birth chart at your 11th house. Your 11th house, okay? And your Aquarius placement. So your 11th house and your Aquarius placement, as well as, your 11th house and your Aquarius placement will clarify where you're supposed to deliver this and how. And when you look at your 12th house placement, that clarifies what mode or what type of unconditional love you have to offer out into the world, because ultimately what you are given is unconditional love through mastery. But unconditional love can only be given when you have suffered the lack of love. When you suffer the lack of love. So 11 is very complex. It's powerful. And you have to move through so many transformations emotionally to get there on the other side. So yes, it's a master, but you have to earn that attribute called master. You have to earn that. The whole community becomes your children that you nurture and that you heal. They become your babies that you suckle, that you comfort. You become the mother to all of those who are in detriment with their Venus faculties of themselves. And when we talk about the Venus faculties of themselves, people who are in crisis with the Libra and Taurus placement. Taurus placement is materialism and sexual addiction. And Libra is codependency. Codependency. So you will have a lot of work to do with people who suffer from codependency. And you will have a lot to do with people who suffer from materialism and sexual addiction as well. You have a lot to do with people like that. You have a lot to do with people who have emotional turmoil that started with the mother, that started in the household, especially with the mother. When a person starts out in life insecure, when a person doesn't know how to find security, they do the most tragic things to feel secure. They do dangerous things. They do things that are regretful. They do things that only makes their life much worse and difficult and complicated because they have not found security yet. Emotional security is at a water sign, Cancer. And anytime we're talking about a water sign, we're talking about the water trine as a whole, the three water signs, which is Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. You cannot separate those. This water has to stay clean and not contaminated. So if there's any impurity, toxins, contamination within this water, everything else in your life is going to be contaminated. And I mean everything. And you're the one who's there to purify the waters for the people. You're the ones who are there to guide people through those waters, the waters of Cancer, which is the relationship of self to self, not self to others. You're not there necessarily for the Scorpio aspect of that or the Pisces aspect. You're mostly there for the Cancer aspect. And the Cancer aspect in crisis is your relationship with yourself, your emotional relationship with yourself. Scorpio deals with your emotional relationship with others. Pisces is emotional relationship with the world. But you, the 11, whose core is 2, means that specifically you're supposed to show up for those who are in emotional crisis with themselves, with their inner child, which is Cancer, the 4th house. All right? So this is the specific context. So as it relates to, oh, this person is in, in crisis, in a relationship, the boyfriend left them, the girlfriend left them. Yeah, those things happen. Yes, it's sad and they'll be going through things. But really what you're going to end up finding is you attract the people whose real problem is with their self emotionally. They're insecure. And because of that low self-esteem, because of that lack of security, because of that lack of nurturing that they didn't get in life, because their inner child is in detriment with themselves, they have behaviors and they have habits and patterns in their life that causes greater turmoil. And you're there to spot it out to them, to show them, and then guide them to shore so that they understand how to heal and fix this, so that healing can take place. But you start out first healing yourself. So the one who has the the heart soul urge, number 11, this is something that you already have within you, and your life path determines how you will deliver that. So you have already gone through these lessons. If you have the heart soul urge 11, you already have this inclination in yourself. You've already passed through these codes. You've already passed through these lessons. But if you have the life path, you have to become that 11. You have to evolve into that 11. You have to process through that 11 to arrive there at that mastery. Now, when you are master, you also need disciples. So you will also attract people who are meant to learn from you and to inherit your wisdom so that it can spread outward and benefit others. You are meant for community. You are meant for humanity. You are meant for the generation. You are meant for legacy. Your capacity is vast because Yemeya is vast. The ocean is vast. The salt water is vast. Okay? Oshun represents rivers, fresh waters, sweet waters. And we know that the river is no comparison to the ocean. Is no comparison to the ocean. Okay? Oshun came from Yemeya. When Oshun became pregnant with IBG, when she had basically a one-night stand with Shango, she became pregnant. And she was scared and she ran to Yemeya, and Yemeya hid her, hid her faults, hid her protected her reputation and helped her to raise the children along with Eshu. It was herself, Yemeya, and Eshu who helped raise those kids, Ibeji. Because there was conflict between Shango and Ogun at that time because, Oshun left Ogun for Shango. She went to the market and here was this fly nigga with braids and, pants sag and street nigga, spinning the other direction, hat tilted on the side, smoking a blunt. And she was just, she was just blown away. God damn, who this street nigga? You understand? She's coming from traditional Ogun, the mechanic, the architect, the mechanic, the carpenter. And then she run into the fly street nigga, and she left Ogun for Shango, and things became different. So this Venus aspect, it deals with the relationship of Venus to Shango rather than Venus to Ogun. Okay? Ogun grounds Venus. Shango transforms Venus. Okay? And he does so through allowing her full autonomy and freedom so that she arrives at the own conclusions of her works and actions. And it becomes an innovative revolution in her life because Uranus is all about revolution. But the way that Shango arrives at revolution in her life is to let her learn from her own ways and actions. To learn from the consequences of her own, behaviors, words, and actions. No control. You understand? All right, that's what you want to do. All right, whatever. But you're going to learn something. You understand? Now, Uranus does have a lot to do with the how the 11 is incorporated into the 2 for the master 11, okay? The 11 is incorporated through Uranus in that, first of all, the 11 brings together 2 things, Uranus and Saturn. Saturn manifests the 1 vibration through authority, discipline, order, structure upon the self, rectitude upon the self, realization of authority upon the self, responsibility upon the self, accountability upon the self, maturity upon the self, mastery through repetitive commitment and sacrifice through the self, arriving at mastery through karmic cycles. So one of the ones represents Saturn in a sense, okay? The other one represents Uranus, and both of these together represents Aquarius, Uranus and Saturn. Now, the Uranus aspect is the revolutionary, the rebel, and seeing self as the authority of what is right or wrong, good or bad. And right or wrong, good or bad is arrived at the conclusions of the moon, the lunar intuition, putting full trust in the lunar intuition, because the moon will never lie. So if the moon told you, if Yemeya told you it is right, it is right. If she told you it's wrong, it's wrong. If she told you left, it's left. If she told you it's right, it's right. To never, ever, ever go against your intuition. But how do you clarify your intuition? You clarify it by giving obedience to your intuition and never betraying it. That's how you clarify it. Your intuition is telling you not to get involved with that situation, but you do it anyway. What are you doing? You're quieting your intuition now. You're quieting the voice of Yemeya. You're quieting the voice of your inner child. How are you doing that? Because you're ignoring it. So now you can't hear the voice of God. How the fuck are you a victim and you got intuition? How are you a victim and you have the strength and authority of Saturn? How? We choose to be victims in life. It is a choice. We subject ourselves to the circumstances that make us victims ultimately. Oh, I didn't, because I didn't know he was like that, because I didn't know he was like that, and he did this and he did that, and then next thing you know, because I didn't know he wasn't like that at first, and the relationship started out, bitch, you're fucking lying, because you got intuition. You didn't listen to the intuition. You have authority. You didn't listen. Nah, man, I ain't mean to do that, man, shit, man, next thing you know, man, I ain't know, man, no, you got intuition too, brother. And you got the authority and strength of Saturn too, brother. You got rectitude, brother. So how the fuck you a victim? We're not victims. We subject ourselves to things because we do not listen to our moon, and we do not show up for accountability with the strength of Saturn that is lent to us. We choose to subject ourselves to victimizing circumstances. It is a choice. It is a choice. Your mama told you a million times, don't be fucking with them knuckleheads. You fucking with them anyway. You end up in jail. You got your record fucked up. You in shootouts. You a baby mama. He left your ass. You looking stupid. Oh, now you a victim. Oh, these no good ass niggas. No, you're not a victim. Because you knew better. You fucking knew better. Whoop-de-doo. Get over it. So, 11. The Uranus aspect of that 1 is taking leadership through Uranus and taking leadership through Saturn. Now, taking leadership through Uranus means you are emboldened to make decisions that go against the status quo. To make decisions for your own emotional security, and to empower others to make decisions for their emotional security, even against status quo. Now, what would that status quo look like? Libra. You're helping people to find the authority, Saturn, which goes with one of the ones, to find their authority and consent to no longer be victims in their lives. You also are giving everyone the revolutionary and rebellious power to push against the expectations of others upon them so that they could have emotional revolution and freedom in their life. Showing them that there is another option if you stop listening to people. There is another option if you stop looking to be agreed with or to be agreeable. There is another option if you are not codependent or emotionally dependent upon others. There is another option of choice if you're not acting out of fear or guilt or obligation to others. There is another option. And you are there through Uranus to show and reveal to them those options that they have, to reveal to them what else is possible, to show them how to innovate from where they stand, how to use what they got to create what they need or innovate what they need. Uranus doesn't ask for permission. Uranus does not apologize. Uranus is always authorized. Always. Uranus goes against the grain. Uranus does not care if everybody is against it. That's Shango. You all can be against me and I'm still going to go this way. You all can disagree with me and I still feel empowered to make this decision. So you are there to give leadership through that spirit, through that attitude, through that boldness, Uranus, through Shango. You are leading with Shango. Your leadership is with Shango. However, your core is with Yemeya. The wisdom comes from that astral body putting you through things, which is Oshun. Your authority and strength is through Saturn, Obaluaye. This is the sophistication of the number 11. The Uranus gives shock value as well. You give electrical shock to the one who needs it. The shock value is the revelation of truth. You say and you show what blows minds, what destroys falsehood, what dispels the darkness. You give a bolt of lightning that gives just enough light to see an image before them of what they're really dealing with, to see the truth. You bring the revelation of truth into lives through Uranus, and you lead with that. Uranus is a revolutionary and a rebel, therefore you have to lead in the mode of revolution and rebellion. So you have to get comfortable with yourself as a revolutionary and a rebel. But here's the difference. A rebel with a cause, a revolutionary based on the revelation. A revolutionary based on the revelation, which revelation is always truth. Not for your own desire, not for your own ego, but to set yourself free and to set others free. Liberation is the ultimate end goal for yourself and for others. Liberation, to give others liberation, to point them to the direction of liberation. You are the Harriet Tubman for emotional detriment in other people. You are the Nat Turner for emotional detriment in other people, emotional crisis in other people. And that's what you are manifesting. So you can't come in an apologetic sense, in an agreeable sense. You are coming in a revolutionary sense because of your destiny to be revolutionary. This can play back on your conscious if you are not grounded in your Cancer, if you're not grounded in your Moon. You will doubt yourself. You won't stand up. You'll sit down and you'll be passive because number 2 tends to be passive. Number 2 wants to ride the passenger seat. Number 2 wants to be coddled and taken care of. Number 2 doesn't want to step out front and take charge. But 2 is not where you stay at. That's your core. 11 is what you're manifesting and evolving to. 11. So you have to take leadership whether you want to or not. And you keep that confidence by being true to your inner child, by not disobeying your intuition, by showing up for your Cancer placement and your emotional disposition and what it requires of you. And you can understand that best through your Cancer placement, which you must never go against. Otherwise, you'll be doubting yourself. So you have to stay in the spirit of boldness and revolution, the rebel, and accept the fact that you are a rebel, accept the fact that you're a revolutionary, and it's not for yourself. One of the ones represents Saturn, so you will always be authorized, you will always have authority, as long as you are willing to act in correctness. Learn he obedience through the things that he suffered. As long as you are in the spirit of obedience to the things that you suffered, you will always be authorized. Learn he obedience to the things that he suffered. As long as you are obedient to the things that you suffered to learn karmically, as long as you are obedient to the karma that you pass through, as long as you are cognizant of the karma that you pass through, as long as you never lose sight of what was learned from the karma that you pass through, you will always be in full authority, no matter what. You lose authority the moment that you betray what you learned, the moment that you betray what you suffered to understand. You lose authority immediately. And that's when you start doubting yourself. That's when you don't have confidence anymore. That's when you don't believe in yourself. That's when you're scared. And you can't be that way dealing with Uranus. You can't be that way with Shango, because Shango is very bold. Shango is loud. He turns his music up very loud. He's very bold. You will know he is there. He does not apologize. He is very rude. He has shock value. Kaboom, thunder, lightning. Understand that. And that's how you have to come. You have to come from the spirit of Shango. Oba Shango is not shy. That number 2 is shy, but Oba Shango is not shy. Now, when we're talking about Aquarius energy, we also are incorporating John the Baptist codes. John the Baptist, we know, prepares for the impulse of Christ, the coming of Christ. And when we talk about the impulse or the coming of Christ, that means you are there before the illumination of a person's heart upon the Christ impulse. So before that person has their breakthrough, you are the one there giving them the baptism of truth. Through Uranus, through Shango, John the Baptist. You bring John the Baptist into that life. And when you bring John the Baptist into that person's life, you are purging away, washing away everything in that water sign that was impure, so that they can receive the download of the Christ impulse into their heart. And once they receive the download of the Christ impulse in their heart, they don't need you anymore. They can walk their own way, because now they're self-illuminated through Christ's impulse in the heart. Understand that. So hopefully this clarifies the 11. With the number 11, after mastering the number 2 energy, the number 2 core of intuitive lunar spirit and of attractive astral spirit, okay, you evolve to understanding the 11 aspect, which is the delivery. Now, let me add the detail that the attractive astral spirit, you will learn through that part, the Venus aspect, of how to attract what you want and need, and not what causes you turmoil. You will start to realize and master how you attract things into your life. And you have to start by attracting what you don't want, by attracting problems, attracting issues. So you're going to have a lot of challenges to overcome to master that too. But once you do, and you get to that 11, all right, the 11 is when the leadership karma comes in. Now, mind you, karma delivers these lessons. And karma doesn't mean you're being punished. Karma doesn't mean you did something wrong. It just simply means a classroom is required for you to download certain spiritual faculties or an understanding, for you to align. Okay? Also for purging, correction, adjustment, ascension even. Understand that. So at the later part of your life, that's when you start to inherit responsibilities that helps you to enhance your relationship with Saturn and Uranus. Your relationship with Saturn will include experiences where you will have to understand where your authority is at and where your consent is at. And that's going to be through you making decisions over and over again where you play victim, and over again where you fail to use your authority, and now you find yourself powerless. Now you find yourself being dominated and controlled by things. Now you find yourself building up resent inside of yourself because you didn't utilize your authority and consent. Now you find yourself attached to things and creating karma. Okay, creating karma because you didn't use your consent and authority. So you're going to be tempted to self-victimize over and over again until you finally learn, no, I'm not a victim. I'm just simply not using my authority. I'm not behaving as if I'm aware of my own consent in a matter. I'm consenting to things that I don't want. I'm consenting to outcomes that I don't want. I'm consenting to contracts that I don't want to be bound to. I'm consenting to processes and formulas and situations, circumstances that I do not desire, that do not match my codes. And I'm suffering because of that. So you're going to go through a lot of these things with Saturn. Also, what you will go through concerning Uranus is you're going to have to learn how to be emboldened through Uranus. This means you're going to be placed in many cases where you're going to have to come out and rebel. You're going to have to come out and push against what everybody comes together to agree upon. So you're going to be the only one in the room that sees, okay, this is not correct. We're not going in the right direction, or we're not doing this in the right way. But if I speak up, if I say something, everybody's going to turn on me. I'm going to lose my friends. If I'm true to myself, people aren't going to like me. If I'm true to myself, people are going to reject me. If I'm true to myself, people are going to think I'm mean, I'm too overbearing. They're going to think I'm ridiculous. So you're going to be constantly put in situations where you're going to have to get comfortable with being the bad guy. You're going to have to get comfortable with being disliked. You're going to have to get comfortable with being the rebel. You are going to be expected to be the revolutionary, to be the one who sets a way, who makes a way. The Moses, the Harriet Tubman. You're going to have to be that person. You're going to have to be the person that stands as the voice of reason and revelation. But when it comes to emotional context here, you're going to find that you're not helping people by enabling their destruction. You're not helping people by agreeing with what they feel. And you're not helping people by saying, yes, girl, getting with the yes, girl crowd. The yes, girl crowd is your worst enemy as 11. Now, and I know I'm leaving out males here by saying that, okay, because this applies to men too. But I think it coins a best similitude, that yes, girl crowd. Because the yes, girl crowd, what I'm saying by that is females all day will speak out philosophies, opinions, and views that are detrimental to themselves, that are not productive, that are not good for them. But because it feels good to the ego to say it, everybody is standing behind them, enabling their ignorance and enabling their detriment with the yes, girl. You will have to find the courage in yourself to go against those things and to not join in on that. You will have to be the one who explains to people who's in emotional turmoil, you know, I understand you feel like a victim. I understand you feel like he did you wrong. I understand you feel like she did you wrong. But you had a choice in this case. You had an option. and you are aware of what you are getting yourself into, but you have to start making wiser decisions for yourself. That's how you got here. So you can't hold anger on so-and-so. You can't blame so-and-so. You can't keep being the victim. You have to be that person who says what they don't want to hear. You have to give the advice that they do not want to receive. That's bringing revelation into other people's lives. So if you're going to be an advocate for people's emotional turmoil, you have to get used to being the dick and the asshole. You have to be the bearer of the bad news. Yes, you're going to comfort, but you have to comfort with the truth, not with sweet, tell me what I want to hear, because that's not helping people. When people are in emotional turmoil and detriment with the Cancer and Venus placement, with the Venus and Moon placement, it's because they betray their intuition or because they allow their astral body to lead them. And you never allow the astral body to lead, ever. The astral body must never have authority, ever. You never give authority to the astral body. You never give authority to Venus, ever, 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 never. Never, ever. And those are the people who you're here for as a number 11. You're here for people who betray their intuition. You're here for people who self-sabotage themselves through their Venus, through their astral body, through their desires. You're here for people who hurt themselves and complicate their life because they are insecure, because they lack nurturing, because they're at war with their inner child, because they betray their inner child. That's who you're here for. So you can't help those people by agreeing with all the stuff that they're saying, because they're going to want to say nothing else except they're a victim. They're going to use a million words in a million ways to say the same thing, which is, I'm a victim. But you hurt them and you enable them. You wrong them. You betray them when you enable them to be victims, instead of showing them how they got into that crisis and showing them out by giving them strength through that Saturn that you have and giving them revelation through the Uranus that you have. We need more people like this, especially women. We need it so bad, because there are too many women in this society that's enabling the detriment of other women. Females in America today are just in unspeakable circumstance and condition with themselves, and crisis with themselves. And there's not enough women speaking up and out about it. Everybody's agreeing and it's not helping. How can you say, for example, you love your daughter and you telling her yes for everything? You don't have a no. You agree with everything that she does and she want to do, and you agree with every way that she did it. That's not love. That is not love. That's negligence. And you're not here to neglect people. You're here to love people. And if you're here to love people, love corrects. Love also brings justice. Love brings the truth. Love guides you and directs you to well-being and wellness. And well-being and wellness guides you to the bounty that's behind your maturity. Yeah, I know it feels good to be with that person, but is that person good for you? I know it feels good to keep doing that, but is that good for you? I know it's boring being with that person, but isn't that person good for you? I know that person isn't so flashy and decorated, but doesn't that person treat you the best that you've ever been treated in your life? You know, you have to be the person that points out these type of things, bringing the revolution into a person, a revelation into a person's life. You have to say things that are hard for people to accept. And it's usually with 3 or more crowd. Understand that. Now, because this is a master vibration, 11, you don't have it like that to where you can say, oh, I'm just going to fall back on my 2. I'm not going to deal with that 11. It's too stressful. It's a burden. It's unfair. No, it's not unfair. If you're here and that's your destiny, it is fair. It's what you owe. It's your debt to pay. is the meaning of your life that must unfold. You have something that you owe to humanity. You have something that you owe to the people. It's the people's faculty, not yours. It belongs to God, not you. You're a conduit for God to deliver these things out. So you're not helping yourself by denying others of receiving the gifts that you have. Running away from it, hiding away. You have to find a way to mobilize what you have mastered and to get it out and deliver it out. That 11 has to crown that 2. The 11 has to crown that 2. So when you get to this point, this is Shango serving his mother. This is Uranus serving the moon. And who's coming to assist in this service is Oshun, the astral body. A beautiful relationship. So, with that being said, contemplate this 11. Questions, comments, concerns, all that. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you for listening.